Iran has chosen a new supreme leader. The Assembly of Experts, the 88 clerics responsible for selecting the most powerful person in the Islamic Republic, announced today that they have reached what they called a decisive and unanimous opinion. They said the decision has been made. But here is what they did not do. They did not say his name. And one clear reason they may be holding back is what Israel said next. The Israeli Defense Forces issued a statement warning that any successor to Khamenei will be a target. Not might be, will be. The moment Iran announces who the new supreme leader is, that person becomes the next name on an Israeli kill list. Think about what is happening right now. Iran has a leader. They have not revealed who he is. Israel has promised to target him. And the President of the United States says he will not last long without American approval. That is the level of pressure this coalition has put on the regime. The most powerful position in the Islamic Republic is now the most exposed position on the planet. Welcome to the Sandtable. This is briefing number 20. Subscribe and hit the bell, because today I'm going to take you inside 6 developments that show this war entering a phase nobody predicted. Israel just started bombing Iran's oil infrastructure, and black rain is falling on Tehran. A 7th American service member is dead. Iran's own president apologized to the Gulf states for attacking them, then took it back hours later when the hardliners came after him. A U.S. intelligence report says the war probably will not topple the regime. And a 3rd American aircraft carrier is now heading to the Middle East. But first, the story of the leader with no name. Because what is happening inside Iran's government right now is the most extraordinary power crisis in the history of the Islamic Republic. Here is what we know. Multiple members of the Assembly of Experts went on Iranian state media today and confirmed that a successor has been selected. Ayatollah Mohammad Mahdi Mirbagheri said great efforts to determine the leadership have been made and that a decisive and unanimous opinion has been reached. Ayatollah Hosseini Bushiri, the vice chairman of the Assembly, said an announcement will come soon. Another Assembly member, Hossein Ali Eshkavari, said Khamenei's name will continue as Iran's leader, strongly suggesting the successor is Mojtaba Khamenei, the dead leader's son. But no official announcement has been made. No name has been published. And the reason is sitting in an IDF press release. Israel warned that any successor will be targeted. That is not ambiguity. That is a direct promise. The next supreme leader will be hunted. Trump reinforced it by saying publicly that the new leader is not going to last long without his approval. And Iran's foreign minister, Araghchi, went on Meet the Press today and rejected a ceasefire, saying Iran needs to continue fighting for the sake of our people. He declined to confirm whether Russia has been providing intelligence support. Here is the analysis. Iran is facing a dilemma that very few governments have ever confronted. They have selected a leader, but announcing him carries enormous risk, because Israel has made clear that any successor is a legitimate military target. So the regime is caught between 2 difficult choices: announce the leader and accept the security consequences, or keep him hidden and leave the country without a visible commander-in-chief during the most intense military pressure in its history. This is the power of sustained air superiority combined with intelligence dominance. The U.S.-Israeli coalition has put the regime in a position where even the act of leadership succession carries severe risk. That is a level of strategic pressure that goes far beyond destroying military hardware. Now the development that marks a new phase of destruction in this war. Israel has started bombing Iran's oil infrastructure. Saturday night, the Israeli Air Force struck multiple oil depots in and around Tehran: the Shahran depot, the Shar Rey depot, and the Nobonyad depot. The Israeli military said these sites distribute fuel to various consumers, including military entities in Iran. This is a strategic escalation, targeting the energy infrastructure that keeps the regime's military and logistics running. Video from Tehran showed massive fires burning across the city's skyline, enormous columns of black smoke rising from the oil depots, turning the sky orange. A CNN team in Tehran reported that on Sunday morning, blackened rain fell on the city, droplets of oil-contaminated water falling from the sky onto the streets and buildings of a capital of 9 million people. Black rain. The visual image of a country's energy infrastructure burning above its citizens' heads. But Israel did not stop at oil. Over the weekend, the Israeli Air Force struck more than 400 targets in Iran and dropped approximately 1,465 munitions. At Mehrabad Airport in Tehran, they destroyed 16 cargo aircraft used by the Quds Force to transfer weapons to Hezbollah. At Shahid Dastgib Airport in Shiraz, at least 5 Iranian military aircraft were destroyed. At Isfahan, they hit F-14 fighter jets on the tarmac and detection systems. And in the Parchin and Sharaud areas, they struck Iran's two most important ballistic missile production sites. Prime Minister Netanyahu released a recorded statement saying Israel and the United States have achieved almost complete control over Iranian skies. Then he added, "There are many more targets and surprises prepared." CENTCOM confirmed that American forces have now struck more than 3,000 targets during the first week of the war. 43 Iranian naval vessels have been destroyed or damaged. A third aircraft carrier, the USS George H.W. Bush, is now heading to the Middle East, making it 3 American carrier strike groups deployed simultaneously. That level of naval power has not been assembled in the region since the 2003. I have to update the casualty count. A 7th United States service member has died. CENTCOM announced today that the service member was seriously wounded during Iran's initial attacks on March 1st in Saudi Arabia. The injuries proved fatal. The service member's name is being withheld until 24 hours after the family has been notified. 7 Americans, all killed by Iran's retaliatory strikes in the opening days. The war has now cost 7 American lives, and the families of those 7 people are living through the worst week of their existence. And the Dena, the Iranian frigate sunk by a U.S. submarine last week. The death toll has been updated. Iranian state media now confirms 104 crew members were killed, not 87 as initially reported. 104 crew members were killed. 32 were wounded and taken to a hospital in Sri Lanka. That single torpedo attack killed more Iranian military personnel than any other single engagement in this entire war. Now, the story that tells you the regime is fracturing under pressure, because what happened on Saturday has never happened before in the Islamic Republic. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian went on state media and apologized to the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, for Iranian strikes hitting their territories. He said Iran does not want to harm its neighbors. He promised the attacks would stop as long as those countries are not used as platforms to attack Iran. That statement lasted approximately 3 hours before the hardliners came after him. Senior figures within the regime criticized Pezeshkian publicly, and then his office issued a correction, saying his remarks were misinterpreted by the enemy that seeks to sow division with neighbors. He backtracked. The apology was walked back, and the strikes on Gulf states continued. Here is why this matters far more than it appears on the surface. In the Islamic Republic, the president does not make foreign policy or military decisions. The supreme leader does. But the supreme leader is dead. The Provisional Leadership Council is running the country, but they clearly do not agree on strategy. Pezeshkian, the elected president, tried to de-escalate with the neighbors. Within hours, senior figures within the regime publicly criticized him, and his office walked the statement back. That suggests a visible split in messaging at the top of the regime. The president and the security apparatus are not on the same page, and everyone, Tehran, Washington, Jerusalem, and every Gulf capital, just watched it happen in real time. Larijani then went on television and gave a national address calling for unity and denying leadership rifts. But you do not give a national address denying rifts unless there are rifts. And today, Larijani posted on social media that Trump must pay the price for this war. Trump's response, "I have no idea who he is. I could not care less. He has already been defeated." Now, the story that complicates the entire narrative of this war. The Washington Post reported that a U.S. National Intelligence Council assessment has concluded that a large-scale U.S.-led assault on Iran is unlikely to topple the country's government. The report also described the prospect of Iran's fragmented opposition taking control of the country as unlikely. Read that again. America's own intelligence community is saying that the military campaign currently being waged, the 3,000 strikes, the 3 carrier groups, the destruction of 90% of Iran's missile capability, is probably not enough to cause the regime to fall. That does not mean the war is failing. Iran's military is being systematically destroyed. Its navy is gone. Its air force is grounded. Its missile capability is down 90%. But the intelligence assessment is drawing a distinction between destroying military hardware and destroying a political system. The regime still controls the internal security forces. It still controls the media. The internet is still shut down. And as Friday's massive pro-regime rally in Tehran showed, the government can still mobilize large crowds even under bombardment. This report matters because it puts a question mark next to the stated objective of this war. If the goal is to destroy Iran's ability to threaten its neighbors, the mission is succeeding. If the goal is unconditional surrender and regime change, the intelligence community is telling the president that air power alone may not deliver it. Let me give you the full Day 9 picture. Israel has escalated to targeting Iran's oil infrastructure. a move designed to increase economic pressure on the regime. Fires from burning oil depots have darkened Tehran's sky. The Israeli Air Force dropped 1,465 munitions over the weekend on more than 400 targets. 16 Quds Force cargo planes destroyed at Mehrabad. 5 military aircraft destroyed at Shiraz. F-14s hit at Isfahan. Iran's 2 most critical missile production facilities struck. Netanyahu says almost complete control of Iranian skies, and more surprises coming. CENTCOM confirms 3,000 targets struck in the first week. 43 ships destroyed. A third carrier, the USS George H.W. Bush, deploying. Oil at record weekly gains. Brent up 27% this week, the biggest weekly surge since the COVID pandemic. Kuwait airport fuel storage hit by drones Sunday morning. Dubai airport and hotel attacked. Bahrain desalination plant struck. Iran retaliating after the U.S. hit an Iranian desalination plant on Qeshm Island. A 7th American service member is dead. The Dena toll rises to 104. Iran has a new leader whose name has not been released. The president of Iran apologized to his neighbors and took it back the same day. And a U.S. intelligence report says the war alone may not topple the regime. China's foreign minister called for an end to the fighting, warning the flames of war risk spreading. Pope Leo XIV asked for the roar of bombs to cease, and Trump said the attacks will intensify this weekend. Here is what Day 9 tells you. This war has entered a new dimension. For the first 8 days, the targets were military: missiles, ships, radar, command centers. Now the coalition is targeting Iran's economic infrastructure: oil depots, fuel storage, refineries. That is a deliberate escalation designed to increase pressure on the regime. It signals that the campaign is moving beyond military degradation toward undermining the regime's ability to sustain itself. This is the kind of pressure that forces a government to make choices, and Iran's government is clearly struggling with those choices right now. Iran has a leader whose name remains a closely guarded secret, a president who tried to de-escalate and was overruled within hours, a military that has lost 90% of its offensive capability, and a capital where oil fires have darkened the sky. A U.S. intelligence report says air power alone may not topple the regime. Trump says ground troops are not off the table. Netanyahu says there are more surprises. And somewhere in Tehran, a man has just been told he is the next supreme leader, knowing that the coalition that killed his predecessor has promised to find him too. Subscribe. I will see you at the next briefing.